It's me, Christiana Gaudet. I am live on YouTube. If you happen to be watching an archive, we appreciate that too. We're on my YouTube channel, Christiana Gaudet, and I see a lot of you are already here. Thank you so much for being here. Alicia, I see you. Marion, glad you're here. Nancy, David, Cheryl, and Divine Love and Light Ceremonies. I know what your actual name is, but remind me. Amy Newman, glad to see you. Don Theory, glad you're here. So we will be here for the next hour. Marion says it's a rare, warm, sunny day here in Scotland. It helps in these crazy times. Yeah, it doesn't, like weather seems somewhat unaffected by these crazinesses and are helpful. Wendy, nice to see you here. Glad you're here. All right. Erin, glad you're here. Okay, so I hope you have your tarot decks with you. Betty, nice to see you. I had actually started doing live webinars on YouTube prior to this crisis. And once the crisis started and I had to stop doing classes in my office and meeting at our local Panera, I moved all of my free events here to YouTube. I'll have to tell you that I'm having so much fun here that even when we can meet in the office once again, we'll keep these events going. Oh my goodness, I see so many friends here. Zuri, glad you're here. Larry, Denauer, Kathy, Kylie's, so happy to see all of you. Irene, Jackie, good to see you. So, this is an hour-long webinar. Kim, glad you're here. You've already got the idea. If you are logged in, and if you're not logged in through Google, you're not going to be able to comment, but you can still watch. If you're logged in through Google, you can comment, and please do say hi to each other. We are all part of a big community, and I think a lot of us, I know I have found a lot of strength and hope and entertainment and insight in being part of this community, especially during this difficult time. Hey, Janet, nice to see you here. Kritika, good to see you. All right, let's get going. So our topic for today is the incredibly versatile two-card spread. And I wrote this class. I've taught it first as an in-person class. Hey, Karen Maynard, nice to see you. I wrote this class because I recognized that in the tarot world, we seem to do a lot of 3-card readings. We do a lot of larger spreads, 5 cards, 7 cards, 10 cards, 11 cards, 12, 13, 15 card spreads. And there's not a lot of focus on what it is to read just 2 cards and to read 2 cards together. And so that felt like sort of a hole in our collective consciousness. Hey, Amber, nice to see you here. And so I thought I'd fill that hole because I do a lot of 2-card spreads, a lot. And so I'm going to share with you some of the techniques that have worked for me. Lori, nice to see you here. And I will tell you that most of the tarot techniques I do are things that came to me. You know, what do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So starting with my very first paid gig, which was a psychic fair probably 27, 28 years ago, something. I recognized that, you know, when you're in it and you're doing readings, you're on the fly, you have to come up with the answers. And our training does not always give us the exact technique we're going to need in that exact moment. And so a lot of the techniques I'm going to share here are techniques that came to me in those moments of pressure that were maybe intuitively inspired, or maybe just, okay, I have to answer this question, maybe this will work, right? And the thing is, in many cases, those techniques do work. And so I've tried to quantify them to be able to share them with you. And Zuri says it's always powerful to have different techniques in our toolkits. Absolutely. Nancy, nice to see you here. Glad you're here. So, 2 cards. Why 2 cards? For the numerologists out here, we all recognize the inherent power in the number 2. And the idea that when we look at the energy of the number 2, it really is the perfect energy to invoke when doing divination. What are the things we associate with the number 2? Decisions, choices, partnership, discernment, opposites and how they do and don't fit together, union, incubation, what is internal, what is yin, feminine energy, comparing one thing to another, balance, and blending. And those are all energies we want to bring into our divination. Marion says she's breaking out her new deck, the Muse Tarot. Very good. I am with my workhorse for the moment. Hey, Pam Hartley, nice to see you here. Glad you're here. So, right, Zuri says relationship, right, exactly. I switch up my decks every 3 months or so, and whatever deck I'm working with, I call the workhorse. And I do try to work it quite a bit. Right now, it's Hanson Roberts, one of my favorites. All right, so I thought about that, and I thought about the energy of 2. And I thought it would be fun to sort of begin this class with a 2 invocation, thinking about how the 5 2 cards in tarot could really guide us in divination. What do we learn about divination from each of these 2 cards? So let's start with the High Priestess, the Major Arcana 2. What does she do that we should emulate in divination? And if you have ideas, please do put them in the comments. The High Priestess sits between mercy and severity. The High Priestess is able to give compassion and truth without judgment. The High Priestess is able to honor all spiritual wisdom, no matter the tradition. The High Priestess looks at what lies beneath. Remember, she travels into the underworld and the subconscious. So she looks at what's underneath things, which is something we need to do in divination as well. The High Priestess engages the subconscious. And the High Priestess listens to intuition. Right, Kyla's, the High Priestess listens to her inner voice. Exactly. And these are things that we need to do in divination. Now, let's look at the Minor Arcana 2 cards. And let's start with the 2 of Cups. What do we do with the 2 of Cups? What does the 2 of Cups teach us to do in divination? It might teach us to find the commonalities between different cards, commonalities between different situations in a client's life. The 2 of Cups teaches us to communicate from the heart. And I really do feel that in a good divination, that's where it's coming from. Hey, Sunshine, nice to see you here. Glad you're here. The 2 of Cups teaches us to engage the process of healing. Back to the High Priestess. Marion says, the High Priestess bringing what is unseen within ourselves to be seen. Oh yeah, so beautiful. Absolutely. The 2 of Cups creates collaboration. And I think any good reading is a collaboration, isn't it? If you're reading for someone else, it's a collaboration between the 2 of you. It's a collaboration with spirit, with ancestors. We all collaborate together to find that information. You might even say, in a way, it's a collaboration between the reader and the deck artist, even. The 2 of Cups is also about forming partnerships. And I think when we're reading for someone, in that moment of divination, we are entering into a partnership with them for that period of time. Okay. Hey, Suzanne, nice to see you. Let's look now at the Two of Wands. How does the Two of Wands inform our divination? The Two of Wands, hey Dina, nice to see you. The Two of Wands asks us to look to the future. And whether or not you are strictly a predictive reader, I'm going to argue that even those who claim to be non-predictive readers will end up doing some prediction in the course of their reading. They may not want to answer questions like, will I meet a great guy? But when you look at the cards and the cards are referencing something that is an energy that is present but hasn't yet manifested, you're looking to the future. And the Two of Wands encourages us to do that. The Two of Wands encourages us to set goals, which I think is a really important part of a good divination. The Two of Wands encourages us to make plans. The Two of Wands encourages us to manifest our intentions. And anyone who has worked with me knows that I feel like, and I think most of you will agree with me, that our tarot decks are not just tools of divination, but actually a set of 78 magical tools with which we can manifest the things that we need. And the Two of Wands reminds us of that. The Two of Wands reminds us to dream. And Cheryl says, time to make plans. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Two of Wands reminds us to dream and to use the cards to help us flesh out our dreams and to help us make our dreams come true. Now, what about the Two of Swords? What energy does the Two of Swords bring to our divination? The Two of Swords helps us to compare ideas one with another. You know, we do a lot of decision making in reading. Should I do this or should I do this? And one of the things we'll be talking about today is how the two-card reading is so helpful for those kinds of questions. We use this card to remind us to make decisions. And while I often say to my clients, I can't make a decision for you, I think we all know that in a tarot reading can point out the factors, the possibilities, the things to consider, the criteria for decision making. The Two of Swords helps us to balance our head and our heart. You know, there's always an argument, right, between the head and the heart and between which you should listen to. The Two of Swords does encourage a more cerebral process than a more emotional one, but also encourages a balance between. Karen says Two of Cups, doctor and patient. Sure, absolutely. Two of Swords asks us to look within. I think that's what the blindfold is about in the Two of Swords. It's not about being unwilling to see what's in front of you. It's about not wanting to be distracted by what's out here, but rather wanting to look within. And Dina says, where's your heart in this decision? Right, absolutely. Marion, Two of Swords, should I stay or should I go? Hey, Martha, nice to see you here today. Okay. The Two of Swords is also really good for finding compromise. And so often in a tarot reading, that's what we have to do. We have to find a compromise either between what we want to do and what we have to do, or what we want and what is possible, or even in relationship, how we find compromise within relationships. Zuri says, Two of Swords reminds us to sit with our choices so we make the right choice for ourselves. Allow meditation and prayer to wash over us for answers and resolution, while allowing rational thought to step in and have a voice. And about the Two of Swords, Betty says she sees with her intuition. Sure, absolutely. So finally, the Two of Pentacles. What does the Two of Pentacles tell us about divination? It tells us to make practical decisions. Dina says, let me sleep on it. Right? Right? Absolutely. Have you ever had that experience where your cards will actually speak with you in your dreams? Where you're trying to solve a problem and you'll dream about a card and that card will be the solution? That'll happen. Okay, so Two of Pentacles helps us to make practical decisions. And as much as tarot is a spiritual tool, it is very often a spiritual tool for practical advice and practical decisions. The Two of Pentacles helps us to use divination to take care of our immediate needs. The Two of Pentacles helps to support our productivity. And Janet says Two of Swords can be a difficult decision. In divination, it certainly can be. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And Kathy says compare and contrast, which I think actually shows up in all of the twos, right? That's something we're actually going to look at in terms of doing those two card readings, how those two card readings allow us to compare and contrast. The Two of Pentacles helps us to discern priorities. I think that's often an important part of a divination, and to find your rhythm. Karen says swords are communication and the moon and the water are emotions. So with the blindfold, it's saying to look within and communicate with your inner emotions before making a decision. And look, in that Two of Swords, she's actually crossed off her heart chakra. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And Dina, about the Two of Pentacles, classic multitasking mother. And yes, Suzanne notices the infinity symbol. The idea that this may not be comfortable, but you can do this for as long as you need to. Absolutely. And Janet wants to know, Janet's Twisted Yoga, Two of Pentacles, looming choice with conflicting distractions. I think very often in divination, what we see with the Two of Pentacles is the multitasking, having to do so much that you're juggling. It can even be a financial thing, like where you can't pay all your bills this week, you have to pay some bills this week and some bills next week. That creative financing that we sometimes have to do. And then it can be a lot of that. So that's a nice invocation to the energy of two as we begin this discussion of two card readings. Now, there's a lot of ways that looking at just two cards very naturally makes sense, a lot of ways to do it. One is what I call a Lenormand style, which is simply this plus this equals that, where you sort of blend the two cards together to equal an answer. Karen, about the Two of Pentacles, says it can talk about juggling health and finances. Sure, absolutely. It often comes up for people who work more than one job, or people who are working and going to school, or someone mentioned multitasking. Dina said the multitasking mother. Very often, especially these days, if you're working from home and your kids are studying from home, that is a real Two of Pentacles moment, right? Okay, so two cards create these natural blends. How do we blend two cards together? One might be this card plus this card equals this meaning. Some examples of that. If you see the Chariot and Justice together, what are you looking at? It's a speeding ticket. If you see the Empress and the Wheel of Fortune together, what are you looking at? Very likely a woman's monthly cycle. Why would that show up in a reading? Oh my gosh, I get these phone calls. My girlfriend is crazy. She suddenly just went off on me. What's going on? Those two cards come up. I say she's fine, get her some chocolate, and try to be quiet. She'll be better in a couple of days. But I also get it from women. I don't know why I'm in such a terrible mood. I just feel terrible. These two cards come up. I'm going to say, where are you in your monthly cycle? You could be dealing with some hormonal stuff. So there you go. Janet likes the speeding ticket. Okay, so that's one way that we can read two cards together, to blend their meaning. put them together to have them equal a particular thing. Karen says, oh, wow. There you go. Okay. The other way you can do it is a storyline or a sentence. First this happened, then this happened. Or we can compare and contrast. Is it this or is it this? We can look at two cards and say which of these two cards is the predominant energy and which is a more supportive energy. And I would argue that, people have a tendency to want to have the order in which you pull the cards matter. And I'm going to say sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. You can pull two cards in any order. Hey, Claire, nice to see you. You can pull two cards in any order and look at those two and say, well, which is the dominant energy here and which is a supportive energy? So when you look at two cards, you can ask yourself these questions. Do these cards add together to make a thing, like the speeding ticket or the monthly cycle? Or pregnancy? What would be pregnancy? The Empress and the Ace of Pentacles. We're looking at a pregnancy. Combine those two cards together. Or are we seeing a story? First this happened, then this happened. Or this is the result of that. If you do this, this will happen. There's a story or a sentence. Or are we looking at a compare and contrast thing? Is it going to be this or this? Or are we looking at one card that is a dominant energy and the other card that's more supportive of it? Amy said, what were the two cards you said relate to the woman's monthly cycle? The Empress and the Wheel of Fortune. As you think about it, the Empress, of course, is the woman and the fertile woman. And the Wheel of Fortune talks about the cycles. And there it is. All right. So let's see, what would be another one? How about, here's another way of using Wheel of Fortune. How about Wheel of Fortune and Ace of Pentacles winning at the casino? Right? There you go. So here's an exercise. I'd like you to take your cards and go ahead and shuffle them. And don't necessarily think about this as a reading. Think about it simply as an exercise, an example, a way of playing with the cards. You don't necessarily have to relate this to yourself or to anything going on around you, unless it screams at you. Sometimes you could be doing an example or an exercise and it'll scream at you. And if it screams at you, then go ahead and take it that way for sure. So what you're going to do is pull two cards and decide the way they might go together. Are they a natural blend that says a thing, like this plus this equals that? Does it show up as a story, or if you do this, this will happen? Does it show up as a choice, a compare and contrast? Either this or that, choose between these two things, or a conflict between two things? Or do you see one card that is a very strong energy and the other card that supports it or clarifies it? So Karen says, so do you decide before you pull the cards? No, you don't. I mean, you could, that would be another exercise. But in this exercise, and I think it's better to let the cards tell you, rather than saying, okay, this card will be the past and this card will be the result of the past. We're going to talk about those kinds of readings too. But in this style of reading, let the cards tell you what they're going to do with each other. How do they relate to each other? You look at the cards and figure out how they relate. What is the best way to address these cards? Is it better to read them as a sentence? Is it better to combine them into one meaning? Do you see them as opposites? Do you see them as complementing each other? Do you see one as a very strong energy that is the crux of it? Let the cards tell you. And that's what you're going to do in this exercise. Just pull two cards. Again, don't ask a question. Don't think about anything. Don't think about taking it as a reading for yourself. Simply pull two cards and see how they work best together. That's what you're doing. How they work best together. And what do you see? And Dina has Three of Wands and Empress, and in it she sees family planning. Perfect. Perfect. Kylie's Seven of Wands plus Sun. Standing your ground and having it turn out well. Yeah. Yeah, and I would really look at that too and say the universe is really supporting you in the need to do that and giving you that strength. So good. Irene, Three of Cups plus Seven of Pentacles reversed. Too much of a fun time, no resources left. Yes! Oh, that's perfect. Jean, nice to see you here. Tower and Knight of Wands reversed. A catastrophe that keeps one from moving forward. Sure. Sure. Or, if you want to move forward, you're going to have to create some fundamental changes in order to do that. That'd be another way to look at that. Larry, Two of Cups plus Queen of Wands, taking this class. Oh, cool. And you know what's funny, Larry? You may not know this, but I actually identify as the Queen of Wands. So how cool is that? Yay. Very good. Dinar, Empress and Seven of Swords. Ooh, the dishonest mother, perhaps. Or lying to your mother. None of us ever had to do that, did we? Okay. Suzanne, Two of Swords and Seven of Cups. Which part of myself will help me? Will help me over, will give me. I bet I'm looking at an autocorrect. You can clarify that for me. David, the Devil and the Four of Swords. Things may look grim, but this too shall pass. Patience and waiting are key. Yes, absolutely. You know what else I would see with the Devil and the Four of Swords? A person who is like completely dedicated to their meditation practice. Okay, Divine Love and Light. Three of Cups and Nine of Swords reversed. What do you see there? I would say you were feeling really depressed, but your friends came with some wine and then you had a good time. The Magician and the Page of Swords, learning how to use your tools. From Sunshine. Cheryl, Judgment and the Queen of Swords. Putting painful things in the past. Perhaps. Amy, Queen of Cups reversed and Queen of Wands. Well, there we see two queens. So that could be two aspects of yourself. That could be nurturing creativity over emotion. That could be getting over your lack of confidence in order to be powerful and creative. Amber, Three of Pentacles and Judgment. You have to put in the work before you know whether you're in the right place. Put in the work instead of getting up in your head. Oh, heck yes, 100%. And once you've put in the work, recognize that you did a good job. Very good, very good. Kim, Knight of Wands reversed and Queen of Wands. Image of snake moving down, a moth moving up. Together I see the human spine uniting heaven and earth. Interesting. Very good. Okay, Zuri, Two of Pentacles and Page of Swords. Looking at my two internet accounts and needing to give attention to both. Very good. Very good. Juggling the messages of both and looking at where the imbalance has been. Giving too much. Marion, Four of Wands and Three of Cups, celebrating and embracing the joy of friends and friendships. So you see how that works. Like Four of Wands and Three of Cups are so similar. And so they just strengthen each other. If you see cards that are opposite, you have to see the way in which, they work together. Marina, Four of Pentacles and the Sun. So that could be a couple of things. That could be needing to have good boundaries with a narcissist. That could be not allowing yourself the opportunity to shine. That could be wanting to go to the festival but not having enough money to do so. Those are some thoughts. Okay, Karen got two jumpers, one after the other. Seven of Wands and Five of Pentacles reversed. You've got the upper hand, although it will be a struggle. Your health will improve and you'll be okay. Suzanne, Two of Swords and Seven of Cups. Which part of myself will give me strength? Right. And the other thing I would see with the Two of Swords and the Seven of Cups is they're both cards of choices. So there's a lot about empowering yourself to make decisions. Suri wanted to know what my cards were. I didn't, actually. I was going to, and then everyone else got right on top of it, which was so good. I love a group of people that is willing to jump in and play with me. Thank you guys so much. Wendy, 5 of Wands reversed and 6 of Cups reversed. Future plans may become difficult. Yep, absolutely. And here's another one with that, thinking about that. 5 of Wands reversed and 6 of Cups reversed. Growing up in a family environment where people aren't allowed to voice their conflict, where everyone has to just agree. And so you become afraid of conflict. That's the other thing I would see with those 2 cards. Twisted Yoga, Janet. 10 of Pentacles and 10 of Swords reversed. So we've had a couple of situations here where we've seen 2 queens or now 2 tens. And that's something you really want to look at as you put that together. She says 10 of Pentacles is success and 10 of Swords reversed, growth and healing after pain. Sure. So the other thing I would say there too, putting those 2 things together, 10 of Pentacles is very typically the card of real estate. And 10 of Swords might be, issues as far as figuring out where you want to live. It's also the card of heritage and ancestry. So it might be ancestral healing, dealing with some ancestral healing. Okay, hey, Aaron, nice to see you. Empress and Ace of Swords, trying to decide if you want to have children, trying to decide what you want to nurture, being a writer and wanting to nurture that, perhaps. Lynn, Fool plus Knight of Swords, distracted fast driving. Very good. Very good. Taking a very quick leap of faith. Okay, Jackie, 5 of Wands and 7 of Cups. A lot of conflict trying to figure out what you want to do, perhaps. Divine Love and Light, really new to tarot, glad you're here. Lucy, Magician and Emperor. Figuring out the tools that you need to step into your place of power. Or figuring out how to trick your father. Betty, 6 of Cups and 10 of Pentacles, a return to the childhood home, or looking at your ancestry, or even past life regression. Claire, Ace of Swords and 10 of Cups. New thoughts and ideas could lead to emotional fulfillment. Absolutely. Absolutely. Or a new dating app. Dawn, Ace of Swords and the Star. Needing to cut some cords and attachments in order to heal. That's a very good idea. Or finding a new modality for healing. Okay. Kim, 3 of Swords plus 6 of Swords. And there, that's one you really want to look at because they're both swords and 3 is half of 6. So there's sort of this natural thing going on there. Advice to move on quickly. Don't sit around and dwell on this one. Absolutely. Snowflake Magic, the World and the Page of Cups. I would say learning how to bring your voice of love to the world. Learning how to make an impact in a larger situation, perhaps. Okay, so that's a fun exercise, right? You got your feet wet right away. Pam, the Moon and the 8 of Cups. Deep release of emotions, certainly, and the journey to find your own truth. Rather than the truth other people want to tell you, what is your truth, really? So, good exercise. Now, the comparing of energies between 2 cards. When you look at 2 cards, you may see some cards as sort of natural pairs or natural opposites. And some of that's going to have to do with the deck. Like with Kim, she definitely looked at images and what she saw in the images and how they compared. And that is a very legit way to do this. I was thinking about that with Pam's, with the Moon and the 8 of Cups. in the weight and weight-inspired images, in the Eight of Cups, the moon is a very strong element of that picture as well. So those two things kind of go together. So looking at what do cards have in common and how are they different? And I think that some cards are just natural pairs and other cards are natural opposites. Now, when you bring reversals into it, that can be a thing too. Like, for instance, a natural pair in my mind might be the Chariot and the Knight of Wands. No, say the Knight of Swords, because they're both really about moving forward, Chariot and Knight of Swords. But what if one's reversed? Then all of a sudden there's this should I stay or should I go kind of a question. If they both came up together upright, it would be like, okay, get on your horse and ride, let's go. So that might be a natural pair. What's another natural pair? The Lovers and the Two of Cups might feel like a natural pair. So if you get both of those together, the 10 of Pentacles and the 10 of Cups, you get both of those together, that is a very clear message. One of them is reversed, suddenly we've got like this question, this opposite. And then there are cards that I think are natural opposites. So let me ask you, go ahead and ring in. What is a natural pair in your mind and what are natural opposites? And say which is which. Say natural pair, these two cards, or natural opposites, these two cards. And okay, Zuri's just going to throw a monkey wrench into my 2-card thing by saying, oh, pull a clarifier third card. And she's right. There are many times when you've got that question that the thing to do is to pull a third card to get that sense of which is which. There's other times you're going to do that too when it comes to decision making. If you're choosing between two things, should I do this or should I do that? Even if you don't have a third choice in mind, pulling a third card for some other possible choice that you don't know about yet is a good idea. Devil plus Hermit as a natural pair. Okay, I'm going to want explanation on that one. That's interesting to me. How do you see that? Give me some explanation on that. Suzanne, opposites, the Lovers and the High Priestess. I can see it, but I could make an argument that they could also go together because they both speak of balance. Interesting. Very interesting. Opposites, 3 of Swords and 2 of Cups. I'm not going to argue with that one. Absolutely. Sunshine, King of Cups and 2 of Pentacles. Okay, this is back to our earlier exercise. Balancing and juggling strong emotions to come to a decision. Sure, it could also be working hard to get to the job that you really want, with the King being a leader and the King of Cups ideally being in a leadership position that you love. That 2 of Pentacles could be, okay, this is what I have to do to get there. Okay, Aaron says 10 of Cups and 4 of Wands seem like matching. I agree. Dina, opposites, Tower and 10 of Pentacles. Makes sense. Pair, 6 of Cups and 10 of Pentacles. Oh, yeah, because they can both speak of that ancestry from the past and the family stuff. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Claire, High Priestess and the Moon, a natural pair. Absolutely, 100%. Kim Essex, natural pair. Empress and Queen of Cups, sure. Martha, 2 of Cups and 4 of Wands feel like a good pair. Oh, Zuri, man. Zuri is my good friend, and in better times, we're lunch buddies. Now, of course, there ain't no going to lunch with anybody, but we look forward to the day that we can. Natural pair, Star and 3 of Swords, and I just figured out where you were going with that, healing. The 3 of Swords, the need for healing, the Star providing healing. I see it. Okay. Karen, opposites, the Tower and Temperance, totally. Dawn, natural pair, 2 of Cups and Lovers. Marion, pair, magician and temperance. Oh, yes. I wouldn't have thought of that one, but oh, yes. Oh, this is perfect, Zuri. Opposites, Four of Swords and the Chariot. Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Mickey, nice to see you here. Six of Pentacles and Five of Pentacles reversed. So I don't know if that's what you pulled in the exercise, or if you're doing pairs or opposites there. Cheryl, the Sun and the Star, matching pair, totally. David, 10 of Wands and 7 Swords. Okay, so this is the earlier exercise. Taking something away, is it moving what's yours or is it stealing? Interesting. Irene, natural pair, Magician and 9 of Cups. Wendy, could the Chariot and the Hermit be considered opposites? Could be, could be, could be. I'd make the High Priestess and the Hermit a pair, though. Just saying. Okay. Dina, the Seven of Cups and the Devil is a pair. I buy that. I absolutely do. And Kim's absolutely right. The Lovers and the Devil are a natural pair as well. And they're even a pair in terms of numerology. And in weight imaging, it's actually the same Adam and Eve couple in both images. Absolutely. Okay. Soul searching and self-destructive habits. So as a pair or as opposites? We're talking about the Hermit and the Devil. Like, I'd get them more as opposites because the Hermit is looking within and the Devil doesn't want to look within. Although the Devil tells you have to look within, so in that way, maybe a pair. Tower and Five of Pentacles, a natural pair. That could make sense. Oh, you were contrasting. David was contrasting the Seven of Swords and the Devil. Got it. Got it, got it. So fun exercise, and really no right or no wrong answers, because we all come to the cards a different way. Just a way of getting us to look at these cards in different ways. So now, what can you do with 2 cards? And this is, now, okay, earlier we had you pull 2 cards and look at the way that you would work with them. Now we're going to talk about actual 2-card spreads where each card would have a designated position. There's a lot of 2-card spreads that you can do. For example, a relationship spread. Who is each person in the relationship? This is Mary. This is Chris. Who are each of them in the relationship? A spiritual relationship spread. That would be the reason each person is in each other's lives. Why is Chris in Mary's life? Why is Mary in Chris's life? Okay, there's your 2 cards. Help and hinder. If you're making a decision, how would this help me? How would this hinder me? Right? Should I or shouldn't I? And here's how I would do that. Okay, so I'm considering doing a thing. This is what happens if I do the thing. This is what happens if I don't do the thing. That's a way to do it, right? The gift and the shadow. What is the gift of this situation? What is the shadow or the problem that comes from this situation? Should you do it or should you not? We already talked about that. Or if you're choosing between 2 things, we already talked about that, a card for this, a card for that. Now, when you're doing those choosing things, say I'm dating and I have to choose between bachelor number 1 and bachelor number 2. If I look at those 2 cards, like sometimes it's going to be obvious. If bachelor number 1 is the 10 of Swords, I'm definitely not into him. But sometimes you're actually weighing. Sometimes you're actually weighing the cards. And how do you weigh a card? You can think about what the question is and which card fits it better. You can think about which feels like a more positive card in this situation. So sometimes you're actually like deciding which card feels better, which card feels heavier than the other, which card feels more important than the other. So what are other two card spreads? What to do and how to do it. What's the problem and what's the solution? What's ending and what's beginning? You can think of many. You can think of many, can't you? Marion says just go for bachelor number 3, right? Okay, very good. Pros and cons. Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So are there any sorts of two card spreads that you can think of right away? And I will do a lot of these, like even within a larger reading. If I'm doing a half-hour reading or an hour reading for someone, these little questions pop up, and I might start with my 11 card Celtic cross, like I always do. But then these little questions pop up. And, so just pulling those two cards to answer those little questions, helpful. Karen says a card for the past, a card for the future. Absolutely. Absolutely. That works out beautifully. So what are some other things that we want to look at? Right. A card for the head, a card for the heart. Karen's on this. Yes. And these are things that you can kind of make up, past and future. Yes. These are things that you can make up in the reading. Right, Karen and Janet, totally on the same page there. So when you see two cards together, no matter whether you've pulled them in a position spread or a non-position spread. Oh, David, two card spread. Who are you on the outside and who are you on the inside? Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. Marion, wanting to move locations and making a choice between the two places. Absolutely. Hey, Mary Neal, Attune Magazine, above and below. And hi, nice to see you. Glad you're here. Yes, as above, so below. What's going on there? So how do two cards talk to each other? You might want to look at, this is a very old-fashioned technique, are the characters facing each other, facing away from each other, or facing in the same direction? That's going to tell you something. Do you see a progression between the two cards, first one and then the other? Do you see that one card modifies or clarifies the other card? And, whenever you're looking at cards, noun plus verb. Yes, this is what to do. This is how to do it. Absolutely. Can two cards give a yes or no response? So, the whole thing about yes and no readings with tarot. There are those who say you just can't. I disagree. There are those who have very elaborate spreads for yes and no, and that might or might not work. Can two cards give yes, no? You might actually do, okay, this is if it's yes, this is if it's no, and see if that works. This is yes, it's happening. This is no, it's not happening, and see what you see there. So you really can do two cards for a yes or no spread, but understand that sometimes that will work, sometimes it won't. And so sometimes you then have to go deeper. Okay. Dina says, I was doing a 2-card tarot story on Instagram. Cool. Karen, for 2-card spreads, a message from yourself, a message from the universe. Oh, I love this from Suzanne. What are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? Show me a strength, show me a weakness. Okay, Zuri, how do you feel about 2 positive cards for deciding between 2 options? That happens a lot. And barring the idea that you could do both, there's a couple things you can say, well, this is win-win. Whatever you do, you're going to win. I might use that technique of pulling a 3rd card. I might do 2 cards for each of those 2 options and see how that goes. And Mickey says 1 card for yes, no, and 1 card for why. Sure, that's a way to do it. Absolutely. And, sometimes with those two positive cards, you've really got to figure out which one feels weightier, which card feels more appealing. And you might look at which one is more related to your question. Like if your question's about about a job, say your question's about a job, and you get the Six of Pentacles and the Ten of Cups, I'm going to go with the Six of Pentacles because Pentacles better for job. So you're going to look at how does the card speak to the question better. Dina, choose one, and if you aren't happy with the other option, if you aren't happy with that, the other option is what you really want. Right, there you go. There you go. And sometimes if it's about decision making, if you can't make a choice, you can always do the why can't I make a choice? Is it my anxiety? Am I not trusting myself? Sometimes you have to do a whole reading on why you can't make a choice. So, the other thing that can happen is when you're doing a larger spread, say you're doing a 7-card spread, an 11-card spread, a Celtic cross, something like that. Sometimes in that spread, positioned in any particular position, you will see 2 cards that seem to go together. Either they're complete opposites, or they're a complete pair, or they tell a great story. Maybe they go together because they are in the same suit and adjacent numbers. Maybe they go together because they're 2 of the same number. Maybe they just go together. And yeah, this idea of like pulling a third card really is a thing. Or I love the idea, Marion, let's go back. Pull further 2 cards for each card. Yes, yes. So if you're really enjoying the working in pairs, just pull 2 more for each card to bring in more information. Absolutely. So, and there's been the word clarify has been used quite a bit here today. Which interestingly, like in the years I've been doing tarot, the concept of a clarifying card is a fairly modern concept, but I think it's something we've always used, but just had different names for it. And I do think that sometimes pulling a card that says, hey, what did you mean by this? Makes sense. And sometimes a 2-card spread can simply be, this is the card and this clarifies it. But I have to say that when it comes to pulling a clarifier, very often my thought is only do it when you need it. I think there are some people who just kind of do it by rote, and there are some things that just don't need it. And very often a clarifying card needs a specific question. Is this about this? Is this about that? My clarifier usually is me looking sort of stink eye at the card and saying, what do you mean by this? And pulling a card. That's how I do a clarifier. I swear to goodness I do. Okay. And so here's, as a novice from Twisted Yoga, Janet, I asked, is this house in my highest good for each home I've found and loved over the past year? All of the cards seem very, very positive, but yet I didn't get any of those homes. And it's true, you can, yes, this house would be great for you. Doesn't mean you will get it, doesn't mean you have to get it. That's fair. Okay. Very good, very good. So, hey Cheryl, nice to see you here. So, when are 2 cards the right number? When the question has 2 possible answers, although, as I said, that's when I'm a fan of that 3rd card too, is what about something I haven't thought of? Kyla's likes my stink eye, right? When your time to do the reading is limited. 2 cards, you can get a lot from 2 cards. When your question is simple, 2 cards will do it. When you want the contemplative energy of the number 2, stink eye card interrogation. I love it. Thank you. There's my process right there. Marion says, I sometimes think that folks who pull clarifier cards because they don't like the answer the original card gave. So in a way, looking for an answer that they want, yeah. Or they're too lazy to dig into that card and figure out what it really means. True. There is truth there. When you have a specific question within a larger reading, we talked about that. When you're new and don't know much, right? And when you want to clarify a single card pull. Yeah, absolutely. Those are all good times for those two cards. Now, I wanted to go back to this idea of you're doing a larger spread, and from anywhere in the spread, you find two cards. Now, I am a real fan of positioned spreads. But I also think that positions within spreads are sometimes fixed and sometimes mutable. And I think that we can read the cards within the positions, but then take them out of their positions to get more meaning from them. And one way to do that when you're doing a larger spread is to see those two cards that are similar, that are a progression, that are opposites, and pull them out of their position, unless keeping them in their position adds more meaning. After you interpret them in their position, pull them out of their position, look at them together, and see what more information you can get from them. Kim said, best advice I got as a beginner was not to contemplate the reading by adding more and more cards. Right, make yourself dig into that card. Research it. You know, we all have a great book of tarot wisdom with us at all times. You know what that is? It's your phone. You can always Google on a card and find 60 million ideas of what a card means. Dig into that card and figure it out, even if it takes you a day, even if it takes you a week. Okay, we are coming to the end of our time together. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you got some ideas of how to work with two cards together, of how to play with two cards, of how two cards might speak to one another. I hope you learned some techniques to add to your tarot toolbox. Now, a couple of things I want to let you know that I am very slowly and painfully working on organizing my YouTube channel into playlists. And if you look at the playlist for live tarot webinars, you'll see some of what we have coming up. I hope you will join us. I also want to let you know I have a premium tarot class coming up on Zoom this Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the Major Arcana, Magical and Mundane. Whether you are a new reader or an experienced reader, you will learn something new about the Major Arcana in this card, how to find spiritual lessons from the Major Arcana, how to find mundane information from the Major Arcana, and how to use the Major Arcana in your magical work. So I hope you'll consider joining us for that. If we're not friends on Facebook, why not? If you're on Facebook, look for me. I have a business page and a personal page. I'd love to see you there. My website is christianagaudette.com. You can go there and sign up for my weekly newsletter. I also want to remind you, I am available. Oh, Dinara's going to be there. Yay. I want to remind you that I am available for readings by phone, Skype, FaceTime, Zoom, Messenger, Duo, WhatsApp. We can work together. I'm not welcoming people into my office right now during this difficult time, but I am certainly welcoming you to my tarot table. I am also available for mentorship. If you would like to do a mentorship package with me, I can teach you tarot. I can help you get your tarot skills to the next level. I can help you with your tarot business. Or I can help you find your personal growth and healing using the tarot. So, thank you guys so much. If you're watching an archive, I appreciate that as well. I appreciate all of you for being here. I will look forward to seeing you. And a few of you are planning on joining me Thursday, so that makes me very happy. And I'll tell you my theory around doing free classes. I really believe, if ever there were a tarot evangelist, it would be me. I believe that we all benefit from this work. And yes, I have paid classes and I'd like you to take them. And yes, I do paid readings and I'd like you to do that too. Many of you already do. But I really like the energy when we can all come together and share. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for being such an important part of this. It would be really boring if it were just me here. So I appreciate you guys. Stay well, stay safe. I know we're all going through a difficult time here on the planet, but we're in it together. And thank you guys for spending a great hour with me. I really appreciate it. Take care of each other. Here's just a quick question from Aaron before we go. So if you have a problem solution and the cards are the same suit in order, how do you interpret that? It's like a natural progression that the problem will solve. You can interpret that as you would any other two cards. Okay, let me just make sure. There's no other questions. Kim says, when I don't see the answer I wanted, sometimes I pull cards until I get the card I wanted. Then I look at the cards that came between where I am and where I want to be. Yeah, I do that too. Okay. Very good, you guys. Thank you all so much for being there. Have a great day. Happy Sunday. I'll look forward to seeing you all soon. Be good.